thanks for making it out so early in the morning for this talk. It's really been a very long, it's been very long in the making. I've been working on VoiceDeck since 2017, and it's to find a model for journalism that is in the public interest, which is a very hard question because all of us usually rely on grants. So how do we find something more sustainable? So I'm going to try structuring it as a story because that's what's fun. And the first rule of storytelling is tell them what you're going to say it, and tell them what you said. So this is the part where I tell you what I'm going to say, which is what we are trying to do is decentralizing social impact bonds. So this is a model in 2010. It was created around the same time as Bitcoin, coincidentally. And it's a model where funders only pay for impact already achieved. So an investor takes on the risk by investing in a nonprofit, and if it delivers outcomes, in that case, the grant person pays out the investor. So since it started, there have been now there are over 300 impact bonds which have been launched and more than $700 million used. This model is super centralized. There's like an intermediary. There's a minimum setup cost of $20 million that's required for this structure to be worthwhile. So I really see a big opportunity for blockchain to decentralize social impact bonds and make it more accessible to retail donors like you and me who don't necessarily want to be a deep pocket funder and want to just directly buy impact without worrying about is my money being wasted and other questions. So now I'm going to just say what my journey has been so far. So I've been a reporter for about 8-10 years now. It started in college. So I started a magazine and the principal banned the magazine. We ran an interview where he said stupid things and we managed to get that on camera and we posted it. And he got upset and banned the magazine. And I spoke to the media against this. He started a committee and that led to my suspension. And finally I filed a lawsuit against him and won that. So it was really cool to see kind of tangible impact and really cut my teeth on these ideas of speaking truth to power and giving a voice to the voiceless and all of those nice ideas that journalism embodies. After that, I went to the Columbia Journalism School. So the story on top with OCCRP, they are one of the partners of the Panama Papers. And I was very lucky to be in the journalism school at the time the Panama Papers came out. So a lot of my professors were involved in those stories and they managed to get me on as one of the students. And I investigated an Azerbaijan Airlines, which had got US Pentagon contracts, a loan guarantee from the Export-Import Bank. It was about 400 million in contracts, 420 loan guarantee. And so it was a good story. Like it broke it wide open. The US is in a quid pro quo where they give contracts to the dictator and they are allowed to use Azerbaijan airspace for Afghanistan. This also led to nice outcomes. Like it led to calls for Congress to investigate and led to kind of a CEO stepping down for some time. He's back now, but at that point he had to step down. And it was very tangible impact. After that, I spent about 5 years in a war zone in central India. So this is with CGNet Swara. It's a unique model where people give a phone call to a server. So it's hooked up to something called a PRI line, which allows you to make a call to a server. And then you have a team of journalists who listen to these stories and they pass it on to volunteers who call up the officer saying that in this village, the teacher is not coming to school, there are the road is not being built, and then it finally gets solved because of the volunteers calling from abroad to the government officer and pressuring them. So all of these cases are very tangible impact. You can feel it, it's very quantifiable, it's very verifiable, but there's still no real way to fund them. So I kind of got burnt out sometime around 2021. It's been a long journey. I started with Learn to Earn, which is like an idea for paying people to learn information, spreading news via Bluetooth in areas without internet. Then during the lockdown, a lot of calls came on CGNets out to help the people who were calling up. And then we started a WhatsApp API where they could now report through WhatsApp. And finally, I was thinking, how do I make sure that I never have to write another grant application and we are still sustainable and we still have money? And that's where I came on the idea of an impact certificate. And that's what I've been working on so far. So in brief, this is what impact certificates are. Currently, this is where we are. You raise money, You create impact, and then there's no feedback loop. It's all based on your marketing and how many funders you can take to coffee and other things. In a world where impact certificates become mainstream, an organization would raise money, like they do right now. They would create some impact with that money, and that would result in an impact certificate, which anyone can buy to fund their next impact. So it creates that feedback loop. And the really important problem that this solves is the trouble selling of impact. Because on the left-hand side, the optimum strategy for any organization is create impact once and then try to market it to as many funders as possible. That's the revenue maximizing strategy. Whereas with an impact certificate, you can only sell that impact once. Then you have to create impact another time. So it rebalances the weight between impact creation and marketing. So this is what our MVP was when we thought about it. A citizen might report a community issue, they work to solve it, and then it publishes an impact report. So on the top is already happening. Where we come in is we evaluate the report, so we quantify it and give it a dollar value, like how worthy and impactful was the report, and it gets published on chain. We require blockchain to make sure that impact is not sold multiple times, that it's sold only once, and that's why a public database is pretty useful for that. Then it becomes available for purchase and it's sold, and then it kind of starts this full funding flywheel where there are no more grant applications required. Yay. This is the minimum lovable product that we ended up building. So here you see some of the stories that are on our website. So one of the stories, I'll take the rightmost one, is a human trafficker was arrested and put behind bars because a journalist in a rural area went and reported and like kind of kept pressuring them, talking to the police, and that human trafficker ended up getting arrested, which is a really cool impact. And you don't even need to know the organization. So that's the other thing. The grants world discriminates against people who don't know English because you need English to write grant applications and access that game. Whereas a lot of these stories are by villagers and like people from remote areas who don't know English, but even they can now get funding by just putting their proof of impact on chain and then someone going and buying the certificate. So it's more egalitarian and makes it more accessible to like the people who actually need money to do good work. This is quickly how we quantify impact. So in this case of the human trafficker who got arrested and put behind bars, we looked at the benefit, which is, this is a fairly controversial analysis, but we looked at OECD data, which said the size of the human trafficking industry is 32 billion, and 2 million women and children are trafficked every year. So to quantify this, we basically saw the human trafficker had trafficked over 100 people before she was arrested. And so 100 people, and like the value of rescuing one victim is $16,000. So then we can do $16,000 into 100. And then there's something called a counterfactual, where you take the probability that the human trafficker would have been arrested even without the journalist being involved. So here it was a 70% probability we assumed that it's because of the journalist that this impact happened. So that's something called the counterfactual. So then we managed to get the benefit, and then you have the cost. The cost of the story is actually how much it cost, because some important definitions, which I think we lack in the space, is an output is what you produce. So I give you money, you produce an output. It is in your hands and your control. If you don't deliver your outputs, you've done something wrong. You should not get more grants. An outcome is the effect of the output. And this is not something in your hands. So if you should not punish someone for not delivering on their outcomes because it's not entirely in their hands. And impact is outcome relative to cost. And this no one is thinking about in the space. Everyone just yeah, I've created impact, but are you dividing the impact that you create by the cost that you incurred in creating it? Because educating one child, yeah, that's a good outcome, you've done very well. But if you've educated the child at $1 million, that's a negative impact because the benefit cost ratio doesn't align. So output is what you produce, outcome is what you, the effect of your output, and impact is outcome relative to cost. So yeah, this is the last slide. This is how you all can help. So you can, I would really love product feedback, app.voicedeck.org. That's our website where you can see different impact certificates. And where we really hope to make inroads with this model is through the gift economy. So a lot of people buy gift cards, like Amazon gift cards and other things for friends' birthdays and baby showers. But this is really funny. Like I was talking to Kevin Owoki of Gitcoin, and he said that his former girlfriend got very angry with him because he gave her an Amazon gift card for her birthday. And she's like, this shows that you don't know me at all. And like, like you have to get something more personal. So I feel like this is what, like this, an impact certificate can be that personal touch where you can say that, look, I know that you really value education. So there's this story about a teacher who's not come to school, and after it was reported by a journalist, the teacher began coming to school. So you can actually make it more personal, write a message on these gift cards and do, and kind of really crack that market as a way of getting impact certificates to have a market. If you're a developer, we are open source, MIT license. We've already got 2 forks of our repo. So that's kind of been one of, this is what success is in the public good space, like just having more people to fork your repo and building on top of you. And we've got 2 of those already. So we are also talking to different ecosystems for implementing outcome-based funding in retroactive public goods funding, because right now those mainly take the form of popularity contests, where I know that this project is good and I know the founders, so I'm going to vote for them. But, and it's very hard for me to say no. It's like, it's unfair to say it's just the popularity. It's, if a project gets in touch with me saying, please vote for us, I find it hard to say no because I like them. But if they instead register whatever outcomes they've created, then I can tell them no much easier and in a less personal way, that I really like you as a project, but I don't think you've delivered as much impact as you can. So this round I'm going to skip on supporting your hypercert or your impact certificate. So really moving to a model where we buy outcomes rather than support projects or vote for projects, that's really something that I hope we as a space move towards. And like, I mean, something I heard from Filecoin was like, they've just closed applications for Filecoin RPGF2. And they said, like, a lot of projects have literally written the same impact which they did in RPGF1. So what this means is you're just like funding the same impact again and again. So having a model where you list the impact, it gets bought up, and now you cannot sell it again. This is all on chain. You can be caught if you try creating the same impact certificate again and again. Yeah, we need like operators. We are in the middle of setting up a 501c3 entity, trying to get impact certificates to be viewed as tax-deductible donations. So in Wikipedia, like if you buy a mug, it counts as cost of goods sold. It's not a donation, whereas impact certificates are being given to donors. So how do we make it a tax-deductible donation and not a cost of goods sold? Those are some of the legal parts that we're working out. Any partner with a database of recorded impact, like these are the people we want to help bring on chain. It doesn't even need to be on VoiceDeck. So I'm a Next Billion fellow with the EF. And one of the ways that I explain to developers why blockchain is good is it separates out your backend and your front end. So in a regular Web2 app, your front end is all, and your backend is linked. Whereas in a blockchain dApp, anyone can build a front end based on the backend that's there. So we are just one of many front ends. Hypercerts is the protocol that we build upon. It was made by Protocol Labs. And now there's the Hypercerts Foundation. And yeah, if you want to buy an impact cert, that'll be awesome. We're going to now give you some more motivation to buy an impact cert, thanks to Nidhi. Can come up on stage. She's going to sing a nice song which like kind of drives home why impact certificates are good. And yeah, cheerleaders, like literally just follow us. I write every day on Twitter at the Devansh Mehta. So just follow on Twitter and support. Vote for VoiceDeck and Gitcoin rounds whenever they happen. And now, quickly, we're going to get.
Yeah, so this is just a TLDR of whatever he just spoke. It's a song. I'm a Web3 girl in a Web2 world, taking crypto into next billion. Now let's go. You can talk to me about lakes and trees and how to fund them using cool algorithms. Avi, DeFi, Regen, Refi. Yeah, Otcon seeking good kind funding. Avi, DeFi, Regen, Refi. Yeah, Octon seeking good kind funding. If you want to onboard, make it simple to use. Don't depend on just grant. Use outcome funding tools. You can build open source, but remember to keep an MIT license so it's truly free. You can gift on VoiceDeck an impact certificate to all your friends. I'm a Web3 girl in a Web2 world, taking crypto into next billion now. Let's go! Thank you.
Amazing performance, Nidhi. Thank you so much. And of course, Devansh, you guys already know I'm a big fan since we guys met in Chiang Mai. This is going to be an engaging session, guys. So if you haven't figured out yet that you can ask questions on this session, you can scan the QR code. There you go. Or open your Devcon passport and go to the bottom part of this session, and then you can ask questions. And you can vote also if you don't want to ask any question, but you like some of the questions. And we do have some questions that already came in here. So maybe we could start off with the first one. Yes, Devansh, the question is, why is this important to you?
Yeah, it's actually a very personal question as well. So when I wrote that OCCRP story, which I showed you about the Azerbaijan Airlines, I felt kind of demoralized that I had to go back to writing a grant application for my next story. I kind of felt like I had proven my stripes as a reporter by doing like an investigation over 2 years, creating tangible outcomes from that story, where the US ambassador to Azerbaijan, Congress is commenting on it. So I felt that something wasn't fair, the fact that I had to then go back to writing grant applications. So really creating a model where, okay, if you've proven your worth as a reporter, you get funding. Similar to trading, right? I mean, trading is an example where you have instant feedback loops. If you're like a good trader, you will make money and you have money for your next trade. So how do we actually like recreate something like that in media? And on a theoretical level, it's about solving market failures. So whenever I look at like deep problems to solve, I think capitalism is great, but it has 3 market failures that need to be solved. One is externalities, which is this problem that people create more good than they create more value than they can capture. So again, our space doesn't have definitions, but public goods, how I see it, is value creation minus value capture. And some people can capture a lot of value, so they don't need public goods funding, but some of them don't. So measure the difference and make it up with public goods funding. So that's externalities, information asymmetry, moral hazard, and monopolies. So I think those are the 4 big ways to improve capitalism, and that's why it's important. Can buying hypercerts become profitable? So that's something which we hope other people take on the mandate for secondary sales, and also like utility, like exchanging a hypercert for getting DAO governance tokens, all of that stuff is something we hope the ecosystem takes on. Our hands are honestly full with quality and with quality control. We are now like fielding requests from lawyers and even OCCRP. I just have a call with them tomorrow about taking the Panama Papers on chain, which is really kind of one of our North Stars in really breaking journalism out. And from the thing of money laundering and all of that, we are now literally funding the actors against money laundering. And in a dictatorship country like Burma. So I think this is really important because a lot of journalists I've spoke to actually do use crypto, some of them, the hardcore ones working in these countries. And they use crypto to fund their reporters in these areas. Because if you try giving it through their bank account, you're basically going to land them in jail. And so you fund using crypto, and then they have various ways of off-ramping over there. Yeah, as always, overseeing your phone calls and transactions. I think that's where some of the work done with privacy and the Ethereum team and with stealth donations and all of that research is super important in making sure that we can make those transactions. How do journalists determine the cost of their articles? That's a great question. Right now, we are determining it, which is based on their annual reports. So in the case of video volunteers, we saw they had 377 impact reports in a year, and we look at their annual budget, and then we divide the number of impact reports with their annual budget, so we get the cost of each impact. And other journalists like OCCRP estimate their investigations to be $120,000 per investigation. ProPublica is around $450,000. So that's the range of investigative journalism kind of outlets. So really just relying on the media to kind of give us the cost per investigation by dividing their budget with the total number of investigations they've done.
All right. I think we have one last question.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and it's something which we will eventually struggle with as well. It's called the Cobra effect. How many of you know the Cobra effect? Okay, no one. So basically, when the British colonized India, they had a problem with all the cobras, and so they gave a bounty for cobras, saying if you bring us cobras, we'll pay you money. And what ended up happening was cobra farms, where like people were farming cobras, and they would then kind of give money. And the British realized this was happening, so they stopped the bounty program, and all the farms released the cobras into the wild. So we had like way more cobras because of that. So that's the issue with like waste collection from beaches, all of that, and that requires interface with the real world to verify that they're not gaming it. Whereas investigative reporting is online. You can verify if your article was cited in a court case online, and journalists have this cultural norm of reporting the facts. So I think that's the other important aspect of journalism. Oh, right. This is really great questions, I must say. So in terms of who we give the money to, it's whoever has the byline. That's a very important concept in journalism, B-Y-L-I-N-E, the byline. And the byline is whoever has reported the story and has it under their name, because this culture of anonymity doesn't really exist in journalism, except in rare cases. You want a person who's standing behind the story and is willing to attest to the facts. So the person who does that is who gets the money. In terms of who gets funded, we use a method called outcome harvesting, where you don't look for a attribution, like this journalist created the impact. You look for contribution. So you would say this journalist was 30% responsible. The lawyer who filed the case was 20% responsible. And you assign weightages to each one. So that's mostly how we go about this.
Thank you so much, Devansh. Let's give him a round of applause, please.